So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over a practice paper for the foundation preparation for the Aqa Gcse Maths of 2022. Now if you're wanting a copy of the paper, all you need to do is just click on the link in the description below, but just a little brief disclaimer that this doesn't cover everything to do with all the topics that are on the advanced information sheet released, so please do make sure that as well as completing this paper you also have a look at what's missing on the advanced information and make sure you have sufficient revision to prepare for your exam. So if you're wanting to have an attempt at this paper before watching this video, all you need to do is just click on the link in the description below and you can download the document, or by all means you can simply just pause the video before we go through each question and have an attempt at before we go through the answer. So looking at question 1, it says, what is the value of the digit 3 in the answer of 7,300 divided by 10? Now the key thing you want to note is that it's not 7,300, it's the calculation. So what we need to do here first is do 7,300 divided by 10, which gives us an answer of 730, and the 3 represents 30, so the answer then is B. Moving on to question 2, it says, on the circle, which of these is the longest? And the correct answer you should have is the circumference. And again, if you're ever unsure, just draw a quick circle and then just draw each of the points or the lines on there, and you should be good to decide the answer. Moving on to question 3, it says, how many lines of symmetry does each of these shapes have? So again, looking at the rectangle, the lines of symmetry is that there are 2 on the rectangle. There is 1 on what appears to be a right angle isosceles triangle, and on the parallelogram there is 0. So the answer then is 2, 1 and 0. Moving on to question 4, which looks at converting units, says change the following to centimeters. So here we're looking at 0.15 kilometers, which is 150 meters, and if we multiply, so here we are multiplying that by 1000, then we're multiplying by 100, so that's going to be 15000 centimeters, so that gives us an answer of 15,000. Then converting millimeters into centimeters, and what we need to do to get from there to there is divide by 10, and 730 divided by 10 is going to be 73. Moving on to question 5, it says that, and let me just move that up slightly. Yep. So it says that Felix wants to go to all 19 home games at a football club. For each game, a ticket costs £29, a season ticket costs £381, and gives entry to all 19 home games. And the question is asking, in total, how much does Felix save by buying a season ticket? So let's start off by working out what the price is separately. So here it's going to be 19 times 29, which is going to be 551. And then with the season ticket, that costs 381, so the difference is going to be 551 minus 381, which gives us an answer of 170, so he saves £170. So looking at question 6, it says here are 2 groups of numbers A and B. One number is moved from A to B. The sum of the numbers is now 20 less than the sum of the numbers in A. Which number has moved? Now for this, I would strongly recommend that you work out the total for each one first. So here we get 124, and the total for B is 56. Now from this, what you then want to do is start by subtracting one of these numbers, add it to group B, so add it to 56, and then see where the difference is 24. So for example, if we take out 23, then that's going to be 101, and so 20 less is looking at 81, and so is 56 plus 23 equal to 81? No, it's not, so 23 is not going to be the case. If I then take out 24, so then the total for group A is going to be 100, and the total for B is going to be 80. And as you can see, we've got a difference of 20. So which number has moved? The answer then is going to be 24. It then says after the number is moved, what is the sum of numbers in B? Well, it's going to be 56 plus 24, which is 80. C then says if a pen and pencil cost £1.10 for both, and the pen costs £1 more than the pencil, what is the cost of the pen? So again, if we just start by having pen and pencil. Now here, if we said that the pen costs, or if the pencil costs X, then the pen will cost £1 more. So let's just imagine we're dealing with pen. So let's just go for 100 plus X, and we'll look in dealing with this in pence. Well, so here it's going to be equal. Add those up. That's going to equal 110, so we're dealing in pence. And this is where we're forming an equation. So if I add these two up, we get 2x plus 100 equals 110. So then 2x equals 10. So x equals 5. So the price then of a pencil, of a pen rather, is going to give me an answer of £1 and 5 pence. So here 100 plus 5 equals 105, which equals £1 and 5 pence. Moving on to question 7, it says Sue wants to buy 10 rolls of wallpaper. She sees these prices. Which is the cheapest price for 10 rolls? So looking at this, then all I need to do is just work these out. So here, if we buy the single rolls, and that's going to be 10 lots of £9.21, which is going to be £92 and 10 pence. We could buy 3 rolls, so 3 rolls plus a single, and the price of that would be 3 times £25.38 plus £9.21, and that comes up to a total of £85.35. So that's starting to be cheaper. And then we buy 2 packs of 5 rolls, and that's going to be pound sign, and that's going to be 2 times £42.85, and that comes up to a total of £85.70. So which one's cheapest? It's going to be 3 rolls and a single. So here the cheapest price equals £85.35. Moving on to question 8, it says to rearrange m equals p plus 3 to make p the subject. So here we've got m the subject, so we want p equals. So what I need to do is get rid of that 3. So I subtract 3, so p equals m minus 3. Now if you wrote m minus 3 equals p, then that's absolutely fine, because that should still get you the full marks. For b, it says simplify 7x squared minus x squared. So this is where we're collecting like terms, and the answer you should have is 6x squared. Moving on to question 9, it says that here is a scale drawing, and we've got a Ferris wheel and we've got a building. The Ferris wheel has a height of 134 meters. Work out the height of the building. So for this, let's have a look at how many Ferris wheels there are to make the building. So looking at this remaining length, I would say we've probably got another 4. So 5 Ferris wheels. Equals the building. Now we know that the Ferris wheel has a height of 134, so that's going to be 5 times 134, and that is going to give me an answer of 670 meters. Then moving on to question 10, which looks at function machines. So it says complete the number machine. So again, looking at this, what we need to do first. Now this one's a bit sneaky, because you think to yourself, well, we need to multiply by 6 and then add 18. But because here we need to look at this. So from this, what we need to do is factorize. So we've got a plus 3. So then what I'm then going to do is I'm going to add 3, then multiply by 6. Then for B, it says write down the output for this number machine. So we're starting with A and multiply it by 4 and then take away 3. So the output then is going to be 4A minus 3. Moving on to question 11, it says that a bottle contains 1.6 litres of water, 750 millilitres of water is poured into the jug. How much water is left in the bottle? Now for this, what we need to do is make sure that we're working with the same units. So 1.6 litres equals 1600 millilitres. So then if I then do 1600 millilitres minus 750 millilitres, I'm left with 850 millilitres. And so I can either leave my answer like this, or I can write it in litres, which is 0.85 litres. So any of those two answers would be good enough to get the 3 marks, which I think is rather generous. So moving on to question 12, it says how many minutes are there in 255 seconds? Now for this, I can use my calculator. So if I use the time function, which is the button next to the negative button, so here I end up with 0 hours, 0 minutes, and I want 255 seconds. Again, press that, and if I press equals, it comes up as 4 minutes and 15 seconds. So this equals 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Now 15 seconds is a quarter, I don't know why I wrote 3, is a quarter of a minute. So it's 4 1/4 minutes, which is option D. Moving on to question 13, it says that a takeaway sells 10-inch pizzas and 12-inch pizzas. Here is some information about the numbers sold in week 2. And it says the table below shows the profit or loss made from each pizza. How much more profit was made in week 2 compared to week 1? Now in this particular question, it's given me what the week 1 profits are. So what I need to do is I need to look at week 2. So looking at the frequency tree to then do the maths. So for this, looking at this, we're looking at 10-inch pizzas. Now for the normal price, it's 407. We've sold 407. So this is going to be 407 times, and it's going to be 3.72. Then for the offer, they've lost 79 pence. So then what I then need to do is do 358 multiplied by minus 0.49 because it's a loss. Then for the normal pizzas, that's going to be for the 12-inch, it's going to be 169 multiplied by £5.29 or 26. And then for the offer, it's a 4p loss, so it's 142 times 0 minus 0.04. Now if I then add those 4 brackets up, so let's just do just that and do the calculator. So here I've got 407 multiplied by 3.72 close bracket plus, and then 358 times minus 0.49 close bracket plus 1. Now you don't have to use a bracket, so you could just simply work the brackets on and then just add the numbers up. You can do it all in one go. Get 2 0 4 close bracket SD, and it comes up to a total profit of 221.88. So the profit for week 2 equals 2221.88. So then the question is asking how much more profit did they make. So here it's going to be 2221.88 minus 1690.36, which gives me a total difference of 531.52 pence. Moving on to question 14, it says that a car travels 4.5 miles in 5 minutes. Work out the average speed in miles per hour. So here, looking at speed, that's distance divided by time. Now again, what I'm wanting is to make sure that the distance is in miles and the time is in hours. So 5 minutes, well that's 5 out of 60 minutes, So 5 over 60 is going to be 1/12 of an hour. So then doing the speed, it's going to be 4.5 divided by, now I can either work with the fraction or I can work out what 1/12 is. So 1/12 as a fraction is going to be 0.83 recurring. I'm just going to keep it as a fraction. So then from this, if I just work that out, so here 4.5 divided by 1/12, or you could use the fraction button, and it gives me 54. So the answer then is 54 miles per hour. Moving on to question 15, it says that in this question, use 1 cubic foot equals 6.23 gallons and 1 cubic foot equals 0.028 cubic meters. And it says convert 3,738 gallons into cubic meters. So looking at this first, what we want to do is we want to convert the gallons into cubic feet. So we're going to do 6.23, or no, it's going to be the amount. So 3738 divided by 6.23, which equals 600 cubic feet. And then what we then want to do is then convert that into cubic meters. So then I'm going to do 600 multiplied by 0.028, and that gives me a final answer of 16.8 cubic meters, or 16.8 meter cubed. Moving on to question 16, it says here is a table shows the cost of hiring concrete mixer for up to 5 days. Here we go. It says the cost of hiring a concrete mixer is made up of a fixed charge plus the daily charge. How much is the daily charge? So for this, what we want to do is just work out the difference between each of these numbers. Now it's not excluding the first one because that's going to include the fixed charge. So this, as you can see, is that we're going up in 13s. And this one here, if I just do that in a different color, you can see is going to be going up in £13 as well, sorry. Yeah. So you can see that the daily charge then is £13. So that's going to be there. Then it says how much is the fixed charge? Well, if the first for hiring for 1 day is £19, we do 19, take away the daily charge, that gives us an answer of 6. So then it's going to be £6 is the fixed charge. Moving on to question 17, it says that Radha drives her car to work. She claims 43 pence per mile from her employer. Radha drives a car travels 55 miles for each gallon of petrol. She pays £5.40 per gallon of petrol. On one journey, Radha drives 341 miles. For this journey, how much does she claim that then she pays for petrol? So let's have a look and break this down. So looking at this, then she claims 341 miles, and we multiply that by 43 pence per mile, so 0.43, and it's 146.63 pence. Now in terms of the general costs, so this is what she claims, and so the general cost is therefore going to be 341 miles. Now if we divide that by to work out how many gallons there are, then we get that to be 6.2 gallons. Now it says that the petrol costs £5.40 per gallon, so it's going to be £5.40 multiplied by 6.2, which gives us an answer of £33.48. So then here, what we then need to do is work out the difference, which is going to be 146.63 minus £33.48, and she is claiming £113.15. I wonder if that's a sackable offence. Moving on to question 18. Now with question 18, it says here is a map of Portugal. 1.5 centimeters equals 300 kilometers. Work out the actual distance between Braga and Albufeira in kilometers. And we've got this. So what 1.5 centimeters equals 300 kilometers. Now for this, what we need to do is use our ruler. Now on this it's going to be particularly difficult, but I work out that the distance between the two is 3.1 centimeters. Now from this you could round up to saying it's going to be 3, but I would make it to be 3.1. So then what we then need to do is do 3.1 divided by 1.5, and then we multiply that by 300. I do that on my calculator now. So 3.1 divided by 15 divided by 1.5 rather, times 300, and we get an answer of 620. Now depending on what you've done, I would say any answer between 600 and 640, depending on what your ruler situation is like, but that's basically how we do it. Moving on to question 19, it says that the table shows the number of films watched 1 week by 40 people. Write down the modal number of films watched. So we're looking for which number of films has the greater frequency, and that's going to be. It then says work out the mean number of films watched per person. And again it says financial must equal the mean. So for this, what we need to do is create an FX column, and what we do then is we multiply these. So that's going to be 0 times 7, which is 0, 12, 20, 24, 12. Then our total frequency is going to be 68. So then the mean is the total FX, which is 68, divided by the total frequency, which is 40, which equals 1.7. Moving on to question 20, it says that Sue leaves home at 0700 hours and runs for 2 hours. Her distance time graph of her here is the distance time graph of her run. How far from home is she after 2 hours? So total distance from home is, we just need to look at this point here and then look across, and you'll notice that there is 15 kilometers. It then says for the next hour she rests. Then she gets the bus home and arrives home at 11:30. Complete the time distance graph. Assume that the bus travels at a constant speed. So for this, it says that for the next hour, so that means it's going to be flat for 1 hour at 10 o'clock, and then she arrives home at 11:30. So what I then need to do is, with a ruler, is then just join those points up. Not too bad. And so your completed distance time graph should look like that. Moving on to question 21, it says the forest has 5,040 trees. The trees are beech or maple. Number of beech to number of maple is 3.2 to 1. What fraction of the trees are beech? Give your answer in its simplest form. So first of all, let's work this out. So here we've got 5,040, and we're going to divide this by adding numbers in the ratio up. So that's 4.2, and if I do that on my calculator, so 5040 divided by 4.2 equals, and it's 1,200. So what I then want to do is I want to multiply this by 1,200 and multiply this by 1,000. So this then becomes, let's use a different color, so that's going to be 1200, and this answer here is going to be 3.2 times by 1200, which equals 3840. Now the question is asking what fraction of the trees are beech. So here we've got 3840 over the total number of trees, which is 5,040. So again, if I just simply type that into my calculator using the fraction button, 3840 over 5040, press equals, and it should automatically give me a simplified answer, which is 16/21. Then says write the number of beech to the number of maple trees in the form of 1 to n. So here we've got 3.2. So 3.2 to 1. So to turn this number into 1, I need to divide that by 3.2. I need to do the same to 1, so divide that by 3.2. So that then becomes 1, and then this number here is going to be 1 divided by 0.32. So 1 divided by 0.32 equals 3.2 right there. and that equals 5 over 16, which is 0.3125. So let me just stick a point there. So then the answer is 0.3125. Moving on to our next question, question 22. It says that here we've got k equals n squared plus 9n plus 1. It says Terry says k will be a prime number for all integer values of n 1 to 9. Show that Terry is wrong. Part of the working must be written in the form as not prime, and you must show you're working out that your value of k is not prime. So for this, if you write n equals 1, so therefore then if I substitute that into the expression, I have 1 squared plus 9 times 1 plus 1, and that equals 11, which is prime. And then substitute n equals 2. I get 2 squared plus 9 times 2 plus 1, which is 23, and that's prime. I then do n equals 3, and 3 squared plus 9 times 3 plus 1, and that gives me 37, and that is prime. I then do n equals 4. I've got 4 squared plus 9 times 4 plus 1, which gives me 53, and that's prime. And I would carry on maybe doing 3 examples, but by the time I get to n equals 6, I've got 6 squared plus 9 times 6 plus 1, which gives me an answer of 91, and 91 is not prime. Now again, if you want to check to make sure numbers are prime or not, if you've got a fact button on your calculator, so for example 37, if you're not sure that that's prime, just press shift and fact, and if it doesn't change, then it's prime number. Whereas if I type in 91, press equals, then press shift and fact, you can see it converts it into a product of their primes, so therefore 91 is not prime. Then moving on to question 23, which looks at sequences. It says here is a rule for a sequence after the first 2 terms. Each term is half the sum of the previous 2 terms. Here is a sequence which follows the rule. Write down the next 3 terms. So again, after the first 2 terms, each term is half the sum of the previous 2. So to work out the next term, I've got to add these 2 numbers together. So 22 plus 12 is going to give me 34, and 34 divided by 2 gives me an answer of 17. Then I then add those 2 numbers up, so 12 plus 17 is 27. I divide that by 29. I divide that by 2 and I get 14.5. So my next number then is 14.5. And then for my third number, I add 17 plus 14.5, and so 17 plus 14.5. I divide that by 2 and I get an answer of 15.75. So the third number then is 15.75. For B, it says that a different sequence follows the same rule. The first term is 5, the third term is 10.5. Find the second term of the sequence. So here what we've got is we've got 5 plus a mystery number, which is going to call x, and if we divide that by 2, I get an answer of 10.5. So what I want to do is solve this equation. So I take the 2 over by multiplying by 2, so I get 5 plus x is going to equal 21. I then take away the 5, and 21 take away 5 is 16. So the missing number then is, or the second term, is going to equal 16. Moving on to question 24, it says here is a formula, and it says work out t when n equals 7. So what I want to do is I just want to substitute 7 for n. So t equals 7 squared minus 14 over 7. So that's 49 minus 2, which is 47. Then says when n is negative, so minus 14 over n is, and then we just got to decide what it is. So when we've got a negative number, well, we've already got a negative anyway, so the correct answer is always going to be positive, because 2 minuses make a positive. So the correct answer is C. Then says when n is negative, when you substitute a negative number, what is it always going to be? And the correct answer you should have is going to be C, because this will always be positive. And then for the next part, because we're subtracting, well, this, when n is negative, that blue circle is going to be negative as well, and a negative and a negative turns to a positive. So then we've got a positive number plus a positive number, which will always give us a positive answer. Moving on to question 25, it says in 1 hour a machine can make 500 nuts or 840 bolts. At 2 p.m. the machine starts working, and it says starts working, not stops rather. It makes 750 nuts and then changes to make bolts. How many bolts will the machine make by 8 p.m? So looking at this, let's have a look at the calculations. So here at 2 p.m. the machine starts working, and it makes 750 bolts. So let's have a look at how much time has elapsed. So 750 divided by 500 equals 1.5. So that's how many hours it's taken. So if we then got 2 p.m. and we add 1.5 hours, the time then is 3:30 p.m. Now if this machine stops working at 8 p.m, what's the time that's elapsed? Well, it's going to be 4 hours and 30 minutes making bolts. So if it makes bolts at a rate of 840 per hour, so it's going to be 840 multiplied by 4.5. And if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 3,780 volts. Then moving on to question 26, it says on the left is a quadratic graph. Which is the x-ordinate of the turning point of the graph? Well, the turning point is here, and the x-ordinate is at 1, and it's +1, so the answer then is C. Then moving on to question 27, it says here are two sets of numbers A and B. The mean of set A to the mean of set B is 7 to 12. Work out the value of y. So what we want to do here is work out the mean of set A. So what I've got to do is add those numbers up and divide by how many numbers there are. So 281 plus 268 plus 225 plus 290, all divided by 4, and that gives me an answer of 266. Then if I work out that equals 7 parts, so 266 equals 7 parts, so then 266 divided by 7 equals 1 part. So then 12 parts is going to be 12 times 266 over 7. And if I type that into my calculator, so 12 times 266 over 7 equals 456. Now what this 456 is that is the mean of set B. Put a little box around that. Now for this, what we need to do to work out the mean, well, I add up all of these numbers, including the y, and I divide that by 5, and the answer is going to be 456. So then if I neaten all of these 4 numbers up, so let's just quickly do that on the calculator. So 392 plus 512 plus 413 plus 422 equals 1739. So 1739 plus y equals, if I take the 5 over to the other side, that's going to be 5 times 456, which equals 2280. And then if I take this over to the other side, I end up with a y value of 541, and there is my value of y. Then moving on to question 28, it says that the nth term of a sequence is 12n minus 5. Work out the numbers in the sequence that have 2 digits and are not prime. Your final line must say not prime and list. So very similar to how it was before. So let's first of all work out the numbers in the term. So n, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute those numbers into my sequence, like so. So when I substitute n equals 1 into this, so 12 times 1 take away 5 is 7. Then the next term is 19, then 31, then 43, then 55, then 67, then 79, then 91, and then 103. Now I can discount 7 and 103 because it needs to be 2 digits. Now from this we just need to pick out which ones are not prime. So again, if I get my calculator, type in 19, press equals, press shift and the fat button. If it doesn't change, then it's prime. And what you should do, if you repeat that, then this is prime, 31 is prime, 43 is prime, 55 is not prime. Just put a little circle around that. 67 is prime, 79 is prime, and 91 is not prime. So the two numbers that aren't prime, so not prime, are going to be 55 and 91. So let me just make that. And then moving on to our last question, which looks at trig. It says here is a right angle triangle. Use trigonometry to work out the signs of angle x. So labeling the triangle, if this is theta, this is going to be my opposite, and this is going to be my hypotenuse. So which trig ratio uses O and H? Well, it's going to be sine. So sine theta equals O over H. Substituting numbers in, I get sine x equals 13 over 22. So then to find out x, I need to get rid of the sine. So I do the inverse sine of 13 over 22, and if I do that I get an answer of 36.2 degrees, and that's to 1 decimal place. And that concludes the end of this practice paper.